Welcome to the Butte-Silver Bowl Council of Commissioners Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. Can we have roll call, please?
We have 9 present, 1 presiding, and 2 absent.
All right. Prayer and the pledge. Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow commissioners, Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Reported the chair. I don't have too much of a report, just say that it's an honor to be chairing my first meeting for this prestigious body. So with that, we'll get into public comments on items on the agenda. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, do we have any to be read into the record?
I do have one letter, sir.
Okay.
Okay, this is a letter from Dr. John W. Ray of 915 West Galena regarding communication number 2021-510. He says, as a citizen, I want to thank the Council of Commissioners and all branches and divisions of the local government for being so attentive to the Superfund issues in Butte. Your vigilance has made the Superfund cleanup so much better and much more productive. There needs to be constant vigilance. The citizen report that I prepared on Superfund successes in Butte over the last 2 years, which I have sent to each of you, highlights all of the progress that has been made in terms of the Butte priority soils, West Side soils, environmental justice, Montana pole plant, community involvement, and collective cooperation. I thought that it would be useful to get an involved citizen's perspective on cleanup progress. I commend the full report I prepared to your considered attention. Going forward, I look forward for the progress to continue. Butte has an excellent Superfund team paying careful attention to the implementation of the cleanup. We should be very appreciative of their efforts and success in making Butte safer. Going forward, we still need to pay careful attention as the various cleanups are implemented in Butte. There is no substitute for the watchful public. Let the eye of the vigilance never be closed. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty and democracy. Thomas Jefferson. But I do believe that a new narrative is unfolding in Butte, a narrative of progress, accomplishment, and success. I hope in the next few weeks to come before the Council and elaborate on the Superfund cleanup in Butte. Again, thank you for your continued involvement with Superfund in Butte. The public should be grateful for your diligence. Dr. John Ray.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ray. We will move into presentation, communication number 2021-536, Tim Burton, Montana League of Cities and Towns, Executive Director requesting Council of Commissioners authorized for a presentation during the Committee of the Whole meeting Wednesday, November 10th, 2021 to present the League's programs. Mr. Burton.
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Members of the Council, Chief Executive Gallagher. For the record, my name is Tim Burton. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana League of Cities and Towns. And with your permission, I'd like to invite Kelly Lynch up to the microphone, the Deputy Director of the League, because we'd like to tag team this discussion and presentation today, if that's okay.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that we've been invited here by the Council to talk about who we are and what we do, and understanding that Butte-Silver Bowl is a dues-paying member of the Montana League of Cities and Towns. And please, if you have any questions as we walk through an overview, please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. Mr. Chairman, the League, Montana League of Cities and Towns, is 90 years old this year, We represent all 127 incorporated cities and towns in Montana, and we've had 100% membership for as long back as I can remember. Many elected officials from Butte-Silver have been president of the league, sat on the board of directors. Mr. Gallagher's on the board right now. And we're made up of an 18-member board of directors. 5 represent the officers of the league, and then there are 12 districts throughout Montana that are regional, and each one of those regions has a member on the board from a governance perspective. And the past president also stays on for a following year as well. So that represents 18 board members and the governance structure that we go through. So the primary reason why municipalities throughout Montana created the league 90 years ago was that collectively we're stronger than if we act independently as 127 units of local government. We are a nonprofit organization, a 501c4. We primarily provide advocacy services at the state, not only at the legislature, but with the governor's office and all the directors. And we also have very active participation in the National League of Cities and work with and through that organization on your behalf. And we also have 100% participation with Montana municipalities in the National League of Cities as well. That becomes very important as, for instance, when we talk about the ARPA program. Our board of directors was in a meeting not too long ago with Senator Tester as the eligible activities under the ARPA program were being worked on in the bill. The bill hadn't passed yet, and it was suggested by our board that Senator Tester, with his influence, broaden the eligible use of the ARPA program. And Senator asked our board, so what do you suggest? And the response was, let's make sewer, water, and broadband eligible under the program as well. Following that meeting, Senator Tester had a Zoom meeting with the president and Senator Manchin, and who else, if you've heard of the Group of 10, had a discussion, and they agreed to that suggestion, amended the bill, and a week later it was passed. And of course, we're working with Clarence Anthony at the National League and coordinating with his team through that whole discussion as well. So our primary services are advocacy, both at the state and federal level. We also provide training, our annual conference, research, and we do this through regional meetings, et cetera. You know, I think it's very important to note, and I say this a lot, JP might roll his eyes, but I first became associated with the Montana League of Cities and Towns back in 1984 as a graduate student with Al Johnson, and at the time he was the city manager of Great Falls. And the mayor was Bob Worthington at the time. Artie Aiken was on the board. And that's back when, through the Montana League of Cities and Towns, they passed the law that gave us the authority to create the Montana Municipal Interlocal Authority. And I was a staff person doing what I was asked to do, but ultimately that happened. And MMIA has been in place now for about 35 or 36 years. And, you know, they provide property, liability, work comp, and health insurance within each of those pools to our municipal members that want to purchase that through MMIA. And it's municipal owned, it's your company. And at the same time, so is the league. We are now and have been for the last several years co-located through service level agreements, because you essentially own both of us. One's a nonprofit and one's an interlocal government agency, but through service level agreements, we leverage all of our employees to better serve our municipal owners. And with that, I'd like Kelly to jump in. Kelly, introduce yourself. And I would also, before I do that, just let you know, and JP, the chief executive has been a party to these decisions and discussions, but we're in transition right now at the league, as I'll be retiring at the end of June. The board of directors had a choice this time, and that is, do we recruit in-house or do we do a national search like they did last time? And they were comfortable to recruit in-house. They interviewed, went through the process, and they've selected Kelly Lynch as the next executive director, and Kelly will be taking over at the end of June as the executive director. I will say that between the two of us and the other service level agreements, there's probably 10 people that on a daily basis in our office, which is made up of, between MMIA and the league, probably 35 people, that between the two of us, there's a lot of capacity, but not a whole lot of depth. And with that in mind, as a part of the transition, once we go through the process of selecting the deputy director, the board created a new position in terms of government affairs. And with all the committee meetings and everything going on, it's certainly going to be helpful with that additional staff person representing your interests on a regular basis. I'd love to say this, that Kelly has more letters after her name than probably are in the alphabet. She's a lawyer. She's got her master's degree in land use planning. She's a certified ADA director. And am I missing anything else? Certified planner. And a certified planner. So that makes for a lot of letters after your title. With that, I think Kelly's going to talk about some of the collaborative projects that we have going on and the process that we undertake when something like a major lawsuit occurs, how we've been dealing with that, or other activities in terms of dealing with the state of Montana. And we find it to be very effective, very cost effective, but also very effective relative to the outcomes. So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd turn it over to Kelly at this point.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone, for having us here tonight. I really appreciate it. Love coming to Butte. I grew up in East Helena, but my family is from Butte, which means half of you are related to me and the other half won't talk to me. So, but I do appreciate coming here. And in fact, this is the first time we've really been able to come out in person for a while, so let's hope we're going in the right direction. So yeah, Kelly Lynch, I am the deputy director. I'm also legal counsel for the organization and executive director designate, I guess. Tim spoke to the work we do in advocacy for in front of the legislature and also with the federal agencies and our congressional representatives. But I wanted to speak to you today about a few of the kind of things we do in the interim with our members to kind of work through the heady projects that come to our attention that everyone seems to struggle with. Also, I'll give 3 examples. The first one has been ongoing now for, I think, about 4 years, going on 4 years. Lot of trouble that we were hearing about from our members with working with Montana Department of Transportation, and just lots of bureaucratic issues, couldn't get through to people, were having a hard time getting a decision made and then not having it be changed when it went to Helena. So we put together a working group that works directly with the top administration at MDT, including the director, the deputy director, and then the heads of engineering, planning, and maintenance. So we work to kind of build that trust and relationship among those people with our folks from our communities. And we worked really hard at first to come up with a better approach to a template agreement for maintenance, ongoing maintenance, citywide maintenance agreement, so you wouldn't have to enter into a separate agreement with them every time you had a project come up on a route. So that has really worked well. Hoping to continue work to figure out ways that they can delegate their projects and federal funded projects to us easier. We think our members can do that work faster, cheaper, and better, and we just need to convince MDT of that. So we're working on that now. I'm hoping to get, work with JP to get someone onto that working group from Butte-Silver. So that's an ongoing project. And of course, that's going to come to a head working on the infrastructure bill where the money is going to be coming in, and MDT is not going to be able to handle all that money and do those projects. So let's get that money out to you guys so you can do the projects. Next project is similar with Department of Environmental Quality on the nutrient standards. You may have heard in the past several years working on the numeric nutrient standards. Nutrients are essentially poop, for lack of a better word. And we are, our members are point source contributors, dischargers, so we have requirements that we have to meet. And instead of going after kind of a more widely, a broader approach to dealing with all sources of nutrients going into our streams, Butte is one of the ones that is well aware of the millions of dollars it has taken to meet these new numeric standards and come to try and clean up those streams. Even with those millions of dollars, we're still not seeing the kinds of improvements in the stream we want to see because we're not going at this in a holistic manner. So we have worked very closely with DEQ to come up with a different approach through an adaptive management program. Bill, Mark, and Pat all sit on that working group and are working through the process of rulemaking on the new narrative standards for nutrients and coming up with a much more flexible and better approach for the point source dischargers, while still making sure that people understand that our members do more to clean water in Montana than any other entities in Montana. We are the ones that spend the money. Our taxpayers spend the money. So we will continue to hammer that narrative as we move through the process. And then one last one I wanted to talk about was land use working group. I think I came and gave you guys a presentation on land use zoning issues. Geez, it seems like it was 10 years ago because it was before COVID, but yeah, it was like 2 years ago. And so in the last legislative session, we saw kind of an all-out attack on local regulation in the area of land use, wanting to preempt from zoning and ADUs to subdivision approvals, and it really was coming at us from all angles. We actually ended up with about, I think, 22 preemptive bills of local governments, but that was just the ones that got passed. There were a whole bunch more than that we fought back. So we expected that we were going to see more of the same in the next legislative session. So we got together with some of the legislators to explain that we had already been working with the realtors and builders, planners, MACO, surveyors to come up with an updated and modernized land use and planning statute framework. So we have been working since June on that, hoping to come up with some better approaches where we would see more in-depth data collection and analysis at the growth policy comprehensive planning level, and then allow that to streamline site-specific development review because those things have been looked at already as a community as a whole. So that's kind of the angle we're taking, but your members are critical pieces of that. Dylan is on that working group and works with us on that. So I think that's a good example of the kind of stuff that takes up most of our day-to-day during non-legislative time.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add too that when issues of statewide significance affecting municipalities occur, we don't always plan for those in our budget because we don't know that they're going to happen. And so the model that we've been using for the last several years, and what may come to mind to you, is the lawsuit filed by the Missouri River Waterkeepers on nutrients. And what typically we do is engage the 7 large communities in Montana and the league, look at the issues, how we're going to address it, address the board of directors, and in this case, There's a whole process we go through before we file a lawsuit. In this lawsuit with the Missouri River, it was in defense of Montana cities and towns. But there's a litigation committee that Kelly chairs. They make a recommendation to the executive director, and then that goes to the full board. And as you know, Butte participated in that, as did the other 6 large cities in the league. And 2-3 years of litigation, ultimately being appealed to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where we prevailed, which allowed us to change the law in the legislature. We're moving from nutrient standards where, quite frankly, the numbers are set so low that financially and technologically you can't achieve the goal. So you're automatically out of compliance, which makes absolutely no sense, and so you're in a variance process. And we negotiated the variance process on a 20-year horizon, because that's usually the time frame by which we issue bonds. So then 20 years down the road, rather than 2 years down the road, we're not being asked to make multi-million-dollar investments again. There are other examples where we've brought the 7 large cities and the league together to hire an engineering firm, for instance, to work with the group through the rulemaking process that's underway right now with DEQ on the narrative standards. And we have another issue in terms of MDT and updating their regulations that relate to their ability to give the authority to local government to manage federal highway projects rather than having to have it managed all the time at the federal level. And we're thinking of hiring expertise to assist all of us in that as well. I know that we've talked to the chief exec. I don't think a decision has been made because we just made the request probably about a half an hour ago. But that process works well. And I will also say, just like you, as a governing body, we've spent an awful lot of the last 2 years responding to a pandemic for the first time in over 100 years. We were able to represent the cities and towns on a weekly meeting with the budget director when the CARES Act was passed. And through those relationships and that process, we were able to bring $95 million CARES Act dollars to local government in Montana, where there was no requirement for the state government to do that. We've been coordinating with the ARPA funds and the design of the competitive program, how the direct allocations work through the non-entitlement units of government, through the Department of Administration, and make sure those mechanics work, and also coordinate our outreach with the state agencies that are managing those affairs. And I'm sure that after last Friday, that we're going to have a new set of opportunities with different rules, because the infrastructure bill has passed Congress, and as I understand it, will be signed by the president this Friday. So, like all of you, we've been responding to those issues as additional duties is assigned. But I think that as a collective group of 120 cities and towns, we were putting that money to good use, and we've been very successful in getting what I consider to be our fair share of the pie. So unless you have something else to add, Kelly, we'd certainly attempt to address any questions that you have, but I think, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our overview of who we are and what we do as the Montana League of Cities and Towns.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll open it up to questions to the council. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. No real question for you, but just thank you. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Kelly, for being here and all the hard work that you guys put in. I've been to a couple of your meetings before, and I've always found them incredibly insightful, and have learned a tremendous amount through those and through some training that you guys have provided to the newer members of government throughout our state. So thank you very much for your hard work and service, and thank you very much for your new job that you're about to tackle, and very, very good luck and all of my best. And I look forward to a few more years of working with you all and all the wonderful things you'll do for our state. So again, thank you both very much.
Thank you, Councilperson.
Commissioner Shea?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had my hand raised to speak when Commissioner Anderson was called on. I just really, he covered it. I just wanted to thank you both and thank your organization. Working from the Butte-Silver Bow side with Finance and Budget Director Gleason and Director Neary, Chief Executive Gallagher, and those of us who are on the ARPA committee, I constantly hear the League's name brought up, MACO's name brought up for the education that you're providing and the guidance that you're providing to all of us to help us understand what's happening and what's appropriate. So I know that we place a lot of trust in you, and we really appreciate your hard work. And congratulations.
Okay. Chief Executive Gallagher.
Well, before Tim walks away, I just want to say, and Kelly, we are, it's so valuable to have your guidance and stepping into a new position. It's helped me tremendously. The league is always a phone call away. We always have if we don't get the call in within minutes, it's within an hour that we get a response back. And so that's been so invaluable. I know that Danette relies on us heavily on the advice of the ARPA and the funding sources that go out there. And Danette reminded me today that we're going to lose somebody in retirement. The many, many years that you've put into the Montana League of Cities and Towns, and we are in ample hands as you leave, but as you leave here, Danette made sure that we give you a little remembrance of Butte as you retire here. So.
Thank you. That's unexpected, but thank you, Chief. That's wonderful. Should I open it, Danette? No? Okay. Oh, okay.
At least wait till you're off camera.
But just once again, thank you, Tim, for the guidance and everything that I've received in the last 9 months, and I look forward to working with Kelly as we move on.
All right. Great. Thank you. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call on Director Janet Gleason. I think she has a word she wants to say also.
So Chairman Frederickson, Commissioners, just want to add to what everybody's saying. I know over the years, I hate to even say this, but Eileen joins me in this too as well, that we probably relied on the league for 30 more years at that time, providing, I think a few things that weren't mentioned is the items that came up more recent were special improvement districts. We relied really, really heavy on this last legislative session for the league's assistance in those, and prior legislative session, working on the road, the county road, and then working on possibly going to the unit of measure, or unit rather than parcel. We rely on a lot of property tax work, but I think over the years, the biggest thing and the biggest advantage that we have with the league is they're always watching out for Butte-Silver Bow as a consolidated government. I mean, there's a lot of times where we could have been missed. A county thing might have came in, or a city thing impacting another, and the entitlement payment that we received, the $5 million, is a big item that comes to mind for me. We could have lost right out the gate about $2 million, and that grows over time without the league. And at that time, I think Tim was just coming back in to the league, but we had Alec Hansen sitting at the chair too, and they were all really pushing forward and had us come testify on what it was impact on consolidated government. So they always have our back as a consolidated unit, and I just can't say enough. And thank you all for all your service and your time and effort and all those late night calls and all the very quick responses. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief, and thank you, Danette.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
chiefs and other members of the council, including the president of this council at one time was the president of the league. And we also rely on your people to better represent what's going on in Helena, all municipalities. Danette was just up there Monday in front of the Revenue Interim Committee. And the type of expertise that Danette represents in terms of trying to educate legislators is invaluable. And we tap into your public works directors, your park and rec people. You probably heard about the TIF working group that Kelly put together, and we beat back 15 or 16 bad bills over the last 3 sessions. And so I appreciate the kind words of the league, and back at you, because we rely on your experts in-house as well to help represent a cohesive message for all cities and towns throughout Montana, tapping into the experts that live and work and get results in these arenas every day.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, and we really appreciate it. And
Thank you, Mr.
thank you
Chairman.
for all the work you do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move into Section 2, Communications. Communication number 2021-131, Ed Lester, Butte-Silver Sheriff, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence and authorization for the Chief Executive to sign the Memorandum of Understanding between Butte-Silver and the Southwest Montana Drug Task Force. Spoke with Sheriff Lester earlier, and we will continue to hold this. Communication number 2021-299, Tristina Thomas, residing in Butte, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners to authorize Tristina Thomas to purchase the following property located at 2422 Pine Street, Butte, Montana, 59701. We are still holding this, waiting on a survey, I believe. 3, communication number 2021-335, Michael and Kellyanne Hoven, 241 William Street, Walkerville, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to purchase vacant land currently owned by BSB. The land we are hoping to acquire includes 1.06 acre parcel and a segment of another 10-acre tract. We are continuing to hold this for a survey as well. 4, communication number 2021-536, Tim Burton, Montana League of Cities and Towns Executive Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for a presentation during the Committee of the Whole meeting Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, to present the League's programs. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to place communication 2021-536 on file as we have that presentation today.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioners, please vote. Oh, please record the vote, sorry.
10 yea, 0 nay.
All right. Communication number 2021-507, JP Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to send the CMS proposal to the Personnel Committee. The proposal from CMS is to provide pay plan consulting services. Chief Executive Gallagher.
Thank you, Chairman Frederickson. This is a survey. We've put this into the budget to create a comprehensive plan of with the salary survey to be able to have a structure for local government to rely on. Right now, we don't have a pay structure that is comprehensive that we can rely on from year to year. And so this is something that has been talked about and promised over many years that I've been here. And so I'd appreciate the approval of this. I'll send a communication in to approve this contract next week. If you have any questions, please ask.
Are there any questions? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chairman Frederickson. I just had to reboot my computer. What was the cost of this to do? I said rebooting it back up here.
The contract is for $58,750.
Okay. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Question for you, I guess, Chief Executive Gallagher. So you'll be putting in another communication on this?
Yes, this would get approved to go forward, I believe, depending on the motion here. And then I'll have a communication next week for your concurrence for me to sign the contract.
Thank you. And so I guess the best thing to do with this would be to concur and place on file, or should we hold it till we have that and cross-reference the two of them? Pardon?
Oh, okay. I think Commissioner Shea is going to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion and address Commissioner Anderson's concerns. Yep, I would make a motion at this time to ask the chief executive to submit a new communication requesting authorization to enter into a professional services agreement with CMS and place communication 2021-507 on file.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Could commissioners please vote?
He went wishing to change the vote.
And can clerk record the vote?
10 yea, 0 nay.
Okay, motion passes. 6, communication number 2021-58510, Jenny Chambers, DEQ Waste Management and Remediation Division Administrator, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization for time on your agenda for DEQ Project Officer Dave Bowers to discuss the upcoming construction to the Montana Pole and Treatment Plant Superfund site, to discuss activities and answer questions that the commissioners may have. We had this presentation last week. So Commissioner Anderson.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to place on file communication 2021-510.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any question on the motion? Can commissioners please vote? Clerk, can you record the vote?
10 yea, 0 nay.
10 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. We'll now move on to any public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. All right, seeing none, I will ask a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Motion passes. Thank you.